Today we are going to study ecology, a new unit in our book. We are going to try to understand what ecology is and what are the research methods that ecologists use to study about the environment. When we talk about environment, this word, by the way, comes from the French meaning to encircle. So environment are the surroundings or the conditions in which a person, an animal, or a plant lives or operates. If we speak about environmental science, we are considering not just the natural world, but also the effects of human activity in the natural world. When we speak about ecology, ecology focuses specifically on the interdependent relationships between living things and their environment. It is not just how the environment affects the organism, but also how the organism affects the environment, as well as how the organism affects other organisms in that environment. But let's look closer at the term ecology. Ecology comes from the Greek word oikos, meaning house. And this word kind of makes sense if you think of Earth as home and you think of all organisms as members of Earth's household. But it was the German Ernest Haeckel who coined the term ecology. He wanted to encourage biologists to consider the ways organisms interact, because until that time, most scientists were studying plants, organisms, animals, as though they existed in isolation, as though they did not affect its surroundings, and as though its surroundings did not affect them. Later on, we will study how Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace made clear the connection between the physical characteristics of a place and the type of species found there, making there the point that how the environment affects the organism and the organism the environment. They clearly made field studies, which is what a good ecologist needs. He must practice field studies. And these two scientists did much of field studies. You know that Charles Darwin went around the world in a 5-year trip aboard the Beagle, and he was able to study different species, and not only that, also geologic features. He brought many species home. He made drawings. He had many books in which he drew all that he found during his voyage aboard the Beagle. And then Alfred Wallace, he also traveled. He went to the Amazon basin, he went to Indonesia and to other parts of the world in order to study different species. Now, when we speak about the research methods that all ecologists use, we are talking about observation, experimentation, and modeling. Observation, of course, is usually the first step when you're asking ecological questions. Now, you will read that environmental changes do not occur over short periods of time. So that is why sometimes scientists do direct surveys in those species that are easy to follow, and they perform indirect surveys in those species that are difficult to track. You will also read that sometimes transmitters are placed on wild animals to follow them in their natural environment. In Pearson, you're going to watch a video that shows the work of biologists and ecologists and how they study parts of the biosphere, so please check it. It has been assigned to you. Another approach that scientists use is experimentation. Hypotheses are not only tested in labs, they are also tested in field. Of course, field studies are a little bit more difficult to control because it is performed where organisms live, and scientists cannot control all the variables as lab scientists do, where they are the ones who control what happens, what occurs inside the lab. And the last research method that scientists or ecologists use is modeling. Some events are rather difficult to study directly, so scientists have to use computers, computer models, have to use mathematical models to describe and model nature. This way, they are able to manipulate variables and they can learn more about organisms or ecosystems. So let's stop this video here and let's go to Google Classroom where your classwork is assigned.